Okay, so hi everybody, and welcome to another session on the Power BI Power Platform community. So today will be Mr. Yemi will be taking us on bridging the gap between data analytic training and employment. So the Power BI learning community is being sponsored by Enterprise DNA and being powered by UrBizEdge. So Enterprise DNA is a firm, and their main goal is to empower Power BI users so they can know more about Power BIs and also use it on that data and change the world. Then your business is a registered Microsoft consulting, financial modeling, business intelligence, and data analysis and enterprise solution firm in Nigeria. And this is the calendar for the upcoming training taking place. So today our guest speaker is Mr. Yemi. Mr. Yemi is a business intelligence analyst who loves everything data. He also loves sharing knowledge and likes training people. He's also an MCT, which is a Microsoft certified trainer. So, hello, Mr. Yemi.
Hi, fine. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Should I take over?
Yeah, you can take over.
Thank you. Well, let me just share my screen, and then we'll get kicking off. All right. So thank you very much, Michael, and the team for inviting me back. This is my second time. I really enjoyed my first time. That's why I'm back. This is a topic that I feel that it would help aspiring data analysts. I don't know how many of us are aspiring, how many of us have got our first role, how many of us are yet to get our first role. But this is something that I feel would help. So the topic is bridging the gap between training and employment. So I don't know from our experience, if we feel that there is a gap. For some of us, you might feel, well, there's no gap. I finished my training, I got my employment. For some other people, they find that there is a gap, and they're struggling with bridging that gap. So what are some of the things that I feel might help? So training and employment. So what goes on in training? What goes on in employment? So training could be, so typically it could be Excel training, followed by Power BI training, Tableau training, SQL training, Python, R, etc., 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 etc. So, for some data analysts, or some aspiring data analysts, they do a lot of training. So they do Excel and follow it up with Power BI and all these things. And the danger is to keep on going from one training to another training to another training to another training. And where does it end? So do you keep on doing trainings and trainings and training and training until you get the job? And what do you do those trainings in? Now, on the employment side, what goes on here? So what typically would go on in employment? So in employment, these are the type of roles that you might be looking at. And there are a lot of roles there. They're basically different companies they call it different things. So some will say data analyst. It could be business data analyst. It could be an insight analyst, Power BI developer, Tableau developer, and so on and so forth. But, there's this in between, this gap in between. So how do you link all those trainings and then get into these roles? Because for many people, I know that people that are doing the trainings because they want to enhance their current role. Then maybe they're not interested in being data analyst or business intelligence analyst. They just want to know a bit about data. While some other people, they are trying to change their career and get into these roles. So, question here, because it's a discussion, why is there a gap? So do we notice that there's been a gap? Does our experience tell us that there's a gap? And why do we think there's a gap?
Okay. So if anybody wants to answer and you want to speak, you can signal and I'll make it possible for you to unmute. And you can also type in the chat box. So you can start putting in your answers. Maybe I'll also go first. On my own side, why I think there's a gap is personally, I think that there's a part of learning something that comes with the doing part. And if I'm just watching, going through trainings and I'm never doing, there will always be something missing when I go for interview and I need to get jobs or I need to actually do that I feel is missing. So I don't know how to put it very well, but I've experienced it that there are some things I learn and then I'm not confident to go for job interviews or I'm not even confident to take freelance roles because somehow there's nothing I can show to them that I have done before.
Okay, thanks, Michael. That is spot on. Learning and learning without doing is the picture that comes to mind is like learning how to drive. So if I'm paying someone to teach me how to drive, and the person is behind the steering, and I'm in the passenger seat, and I'm paying this person per hour, I'm just watching him drive around, and I never get on the steering myself, and make mistakes, not crash, but at least try out myself, and then he's guiding me. Then how am I ever going to learn how to drive? So that is just a bit like watching videos and videos and videos where somebody's doing that. It looks so easy, but except if you pause the video and try to do it yourself, then you find out that there's a bit different, and it's by doing it ourselves that we do learn. So thanks a lot, Michael. Is there any other thing in the chat? I can't see the chat because I'm sharing full screen.
So somebody gave an answer of mentorship.
Good.
Mentorship. So mentorship is part of the gap.
Okay. So mentorship. So is it after the training? So after training, having someone to mentor to get the job?
I think mentorship is more of like there's lots of information. So like now you mentioned there's Power BI, there's Excel, there's Python, there's SQL. Like when do you start? What do you need to get your first role? And then when you know Power BI, there's always new information coming up. So there's always that feeling that maybe you're not yet good enough to actually go for it. So most times people feel they need somebody that will like show them a pathway, show them the like take step 1, step 2, step 3 before like just that, or someone to guide them. Yeah.
All right. I understand that. So
also unmute Kelechi so that so that he can maybe shed more light on what he means exactly.
Okay.
So Kelechi, you have been unmuted.
No, if he's
okay. So, I think it's not prepared to talk. Okay.
Opinions. I think just the audience for now.
So you can go on.
Okay, so I'll go on. Okay, so yeah, mentoring, hands-on practice, and there's a lot more. But the thing is that the experience of a lot of people show that there's a gap. There's not everyone that finishes training. There's not everyone that even gets the Power BI certification that gets the job. So there is the reality. I feel is that there is a gap, just because there are many reasons. So there is demand and supply. There's a lot of people doing trainings and certifications more than the number of jobs that there are. It could also be because data analytics is very important to the company. So they want a safe pair of hands. A company is not just going to put their data. The data is about customer data. It's about, product data. It's about their company. This is their lifeblood. and they want to make sure that the hands that they're putting it in, are safe hands, because the outcome of the data analytics is all about customers and profit. So, and the insights are very, very important. So thank you. So it's important to look at what goes on in these two sides of the cliff, on these two sides of the gap. So what goes on in training, we need to look at, and what goes on in employment. Because if we're going to bridge the gap, we need to understand those two bits, and then see how do we build a bridge in between those two bits. So in training, you have a number of things here. There's a lot more, and that's why I always end with etc. But in training, from my experience, you have structure. So you have all these training courses that are very well structured, and there is direction. You might have an instructor that is saying, do this task, and once you finish it, you might even have some very nice courses out there where will give you the task to do, and then you do it, and then there's the solution video, where where the instructor walks you through. And then you have support. You might have a chat group there where if you run into any problems, there's support, there's help, there's control, there's pace in that, that I have to do this first and then I have to do that. And, the tools are given to you. Some courses will say, for this exercise, I want you to use Excel formulas. And for the next one, I want you to use Power Query. And for the next one, I want you to use something else. So there's a lot of direction there, a lot of hand-holding. In employment, generally, you have these things. You have high expectations, independence, productivity results, and I'll talk a bit about this. So in employment, there's high expectations from day one. So a lot of that hand-holding goes away, particularly if you are taken on in a professional role. So in the employment, no one is being employed in that company to hold your hand. There's no supervisor. It's not like a school where somebody is being employed, to guide you through. That even if you have a mentor or a supervisor, that person has their own job role. They have their own deliverables to do. So if you get a good company, they will not throw you in the deep end from day one. But there is limited support because, somebody, if you run into trouble, you can contact, somebody, but they will not expect too much of it, that you don't know what to do. And the person has to tell you, do this and do this and do this and do this. Therefore you have to act. There's a lot of independence, and generally what you'll find is that in training, one of the differences between training and employment is that in employment, you are the professional. So if you're employed in any of those roles, you are the professional. So they'll rely on you to choose the tools some of the time, the methods. Some companies will already have the tools. They'll say we have Power BI, but the methods, the steps you're going to take, all they want is the result. So that is a bit of the difference between the two. When I say professionalism, they're expecting that they're expecting you to make judgment calls. So sometimes it's not an exact science. Take, for instance, if you're doing data cleansing, it's not an exact science. So you need to make the judgment call that this is how I'm going to manipulate this data. I need to cut some of it off. Take, for instance, if you have to truncate data, a good example would be if you have, maybe if in your source you have first name, middle name, last name, and you're doing data migration from one system to the other, and the new system only has name, and you only have 20 characters. How do you make that judgment call? How to concatenate these three into 20 characters? So you make the judgment call, knowing what would be suitable for the business, and provided it's okay, generally they'll leave you alone. They'll say, that's fine, because you are the expert. You are in the advisory role to tell them what you think needs to be done. So I hope I'm making sense here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so you understand. So yeah. So, and that's why two data analysts could be in the same company and they could be doing it differently. But provided it meets the business need, they will take it. In some companies are very rigid, but some companies, would give you that respect and that professional. They rely on your professional judgment. So this is just a very broad, very general overview of what might go on on the two sides of the gap. Now, how about data? So we've spoken about some other things, but how about data? Data on these two sides. Now, data here is like this. Data here is cute. It's cleaned up. It's all formatted. It's cute. A lot of the courses I've seen, don't have dirty data. I think we need courses with data. Actually, I'm writing a course with dirty data already for Udemy. But it's it's all clinical. The data that I don't know if you agree, if you've seen, some of the data sets. Yeah, there are some data sets that are, you could find out that are complex. Yes, I like those ones because they're real. They seem more real. And there's some competitions online on LinkedIn that, yeah, the data set you see, I like that, all this big data, messy data, there's no clear cut, and you now have to make the decisions about what to do. You've got gaps in the data, you've got things that are not right, and you have to clean it up and do a lot of things. But sometimes in the courses, in the training, the data is just a small set, and it's very cute, for want of a better word. While the data here is, wild and scary, and it's the opposite, untamed. You have companies that have, tamed data, they have good structure, but be prepared for the wild data, because if you can deal with wild data, messy data, crazy data, then if you get into a company that's got good data quality, it's a bonus for you. The last picture, data here is, this chicken that's already been cleaned up, just ready to put in the oven and eat. But that is a big difference between that and this, because this has work to do on it. You have to catch it and cut it and, pluck it, and it's nothing like this. So if all you are familiar with is the data on the left, then when you get the job, you will have a real shock when they give you a live chicken. And you don't know what to do with the live chicken. Oh, narrowing the gap. So in training, so these are some of the things that these are some of the things here. So let me talk about this first. So in training, before we go into the extension, I would say, if you're to answer the question that came earlier, my view is that, okay, what do you do first? And how do you guide yourself through? Yeah, mentoring, we're going to talk about mentoring. But in training, my advice is balance breadth with depth. So that you're not just doing a lot of training. You hear that Excel is good, you do Excel. And then before you get deep in Excel, you hear that, somebody got a job with Power BI, you jump to Power BI. And then you hear that somebody, you see another advert, there's Python in it, you go and learn very little Python. And then you hear about, what is happening is that you are developing breadth. But in each of those packages, in each of those tools, do you have depth? So it's better to be deep in one and then know the other few. But you don't want to be the master, the jack of all trades and the master of none. People get fantastic jobs with just Excel, if they're experts. Python, if you want to go deep in Python. You won't lack. With Python, you can become a software engineer. If you are an expert in Python, you can become a data engineer building data pipelines in Python. But don't just say a little of this, a little of that, a little of this. That's my advice. And then you need to balance breadth with depth. So let's go and look at the extension. So this is what I feel for the extension. This is what I would have liked when I was training and I wanted to jump onto employment. So in the extension, it would be good if you could have some self-directed data analysis. So you are going from this, directed data analysis, this structured data analysis in the training. In the extension, look for data sets and then it's almost like you set the task yourself. So it could be AdventureWorks, it could be any of these other data sets out there, and nobody's saying, do this, and after you do this, and after you do that, do this. You jump into the data yourself and you're trying to find insights. That's self-directed data analysis. In employment, sometimes you'll be given tasks to do. They'll say, this is the data, I want you to do this, and this in it. But like I said in my previous presentation, if you get a data analysis role where you're given the questions, my strong advice is turn every role you get into a business analyst role where you're not given the questions and you go into the data, you do investigation on the data, and you come up with the question, you come up with the answer, and you're telling them things about their data that they've known they've had the data for decades, and you've just come there, but you're telling them things about their data that they didn't even know was there. It's because data can speak. My advice in the extension is that you need to develop an understanding of businesses. So add to your data analysis tools, all the things you're learning. It'll be nice to go and learn about businesses, how businesses run, business operations. You could even do a course. For instance, I would recommend for everybody to go and do every data analysis in training. At some point, to go and do the Google Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course, because you'll learn about a lot. You'll learn about, the different types of digital marketing. It gives you a kind of flair for digital marketing, and then you begin to understand how businesses think. Or add to that, go and do Google Analytics, the Google Analytics course. And then you can do the advanced one on top of it. It gives you an understanding of Google Analytics and, all those things at the back end of it. The data, but also how they're using the data to make money, So understanding businesses, because you are going to work in a business, except if you're going to be a data analyst that just works in research or works in a statistics organization, you are going to be working in a business. And these are some of the things that they want to see. So more and more I'm seeing, my current job title is business analyst. I'll tell you what, I'm doing data analysis. I'm doing data analysis, Power BI, all these other things. But different companies call it different things. The reason why it's called business analysis, my previous role was business data analyst. But the reason why it's called business analyst is because you have to do requirement gathering. You have to go to the stakeholders, understand their needs, and develop, dashboards for them. Typically, maybe in the past, you might have people that some companies might employ a business analyst and a data analyst in the past, where the business analyst would do all the, the scoping, all the requirement elicitation, understand what the business need is, and pass it on to the data analyst or the developer. Or maybe it could be the other way around, where the data analyst would do all the data analysis of the research they've done, or the market research, and then pass it on to the business analyst. And then they carry on. But companies are being smart now. They're saying business data analysts, combine it together. So it's not the title that is important. Then, as I said earlier, provide business intelligence, turn your roles, start wherever you start from, end with business intelligence. So you come into a company, transform the role around. My previous role, I came in as a business data analyst. I showed them that they needed a business intelligence analyst because I showed them business intelligence, but God's grace. And then, interestingly, when I left and they wanted to replace me, and I saw recently on LinkedIn the advert they put for my replacement. They didn't call it business data analyst. They call it business intelligence analyst because now they've seen what they really need. So, and then, anything that you can find any experience you can gain on data quality, like I said, messy data management, etc. Like I said, balance breadth with depth. So in the extension, our advice, look for real business data. Look for all these things. Real business data. Simulated data is fine. If you can get real business data, open source, online, wherever you can find it, it's good. I know it's available, and real business opportunities. You're looking at opportunities for business to use data to understand their customers, to get more customers, real business challenges that the data will highlight, and then you're also going to, a consultant mode, and you're telling them based on the data is saying this, and what do you do? So like in my previous presentation, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, and real customers and clients. So, you need to, as much as possible, get into that frame of mind. So you're job ready, you're employment ready. So it's not just theoretical, it's not just clinical, but it's, you know that this is how the data is going to, this is how the data analytics role is going to play out in real life. Now, some options worth considering. So here, once you finish your training, and who determines when you finish your training? Is it the training provider that says, your course is finished, you finish your training, bye-bye. But then you can find another training provider that will say, okay, I'm going to teach you something else. So it's a balance of both. You need to say, look, I've learned enough. And you will never feel that you've learned enough. But you can't keep on learning and learning and learning and learning, because if you're doing it, particularly if you're doing career change, if you've got responsibilities, you're combining it with a day job, you've got a family to feed, you've got bills to pay, you cannot just be spending endless time and money on training after training after training after training. So gain work experience, whichever way you can find it. Let me just put all this up. So gain work experience. That work experience could be a work experience platform. And my opinion is that we need a lot more of them. We need platforms. I know there are platforms that teach project management, and the platforms for business analytics, and the platform for product owner. But when work experience platforms are real companies, this is not simulated now, it's not play. Real organizations that are set up for training and work experience and have real customers, and they're generating real data, and their trainees or their interns have access to that real data that is coming from that, because they have a product and a service that they're offering. Am I making sense here?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, so
Yes.
not simulated,
Yes.
not, because when you go for a job interview, you need to tell a story. It would be nice to tell a story, except if you want an entry job, which is not bad. But we need more, and if you can find one, tag on to. So this could be, so whether, so a real company, but it's a work experience platform. Now, some of them will not pay you, of course, because they're training you. Sometimes you have to pay them. But the good thing is that this is real data. and they have real problems that they want to be solved through real data analytics. Now, internships also, this is working for a company. It could be out of the data space. It could be a bank or anywhere. But you're doing an internship. They might pay you. They might not pay you. They might pay you little allowance, transport allowance. But you are working the company because you are using that experience as a launch pad to get a better job. So when you apply for employment, you are not starting from ground zero. You're saying, I work for this company, ABC, enterprises, and this is what we did, because they want your story. What was the problem? How did you use your data analytics to solve a problem? What was the result? Were you able to get more customers for the company? Were you able to find out the reasons why the customers were leaving? Were you able to get more profit? Whatever it is. It could be volunteering. So volunteering could be, it could be anything. So you work for a charity, you have a church or mosque, they have data, it could be from attendance, it could be from the record of the offering, it could be their membership register. And sometimes you have to be proactive and you have to go and present the offer. So
there's a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a question. Okay, so someone's asking, does experience from platforms, just freelance platforms like Upwork and Weavers, did they count?
Yeah, because experience from platforms will count because you've solved the problem. So somebody has paid you to solve the problem, but it depends on what it was. So take, for instance, if somebody puts in a data analytics so if there's a company that goes on to Upwork and say, this is our data, we want you to prepare a dashboard from this data. I don't know if companies do that on Upwork because companies tend to be very protective about their data. But if there are, provided you have that story that this was the data, this is what I did, I cleaned it up, I analyzed it, I found out there were problems in the data quality, this is how I solved the data quality problem, this is how I developed the data model, this is how I did the dashboard. But don't stop there because, like I said in my other presentation, so what? You made a fancy dashboard, it was pretty, so what? So that's that. But if it's on Upwork, for instance, I'm not on Upwork, so I don't know what goes on there. And if somebody say, well, I've got a project, I'm a PhD person, I just need somebody to analyze this, stuff for me. If it's the result of it, what's the result of it? So yes, definitely I would say, why not? Why not go on Upwork? You'll get money for your for your work, and then you'll get recommendations from customers. You'll be able to say, yep, happy customer. This customer said this, and this customer said that, and that customer said that. I might even decide not to get employment. If you're getting a lot of money from Upwork, you're hitting $10K on Upwork, you might decide, why do I want to go work for a company anyway? So these are things, but like I say, so volunteer, sometimes you have to be the person to approach the organization to say, look, I can help you with this and this and this and this. I know you're generating data. I could help you. I could do this for you. Could be an estate agent. It could be somebody that doesn't use their data for anything. You go and you show them what you can do. And behind all this, you want to develop a portfolio. So things that if you go in to make a proposal, things that I can show them that, look, even from your training, use your training to develop a portfolio. Use those self-directed data analysis to develop a portfolio as well. And intermediate jobs, by intermediate jobs, I mean, they're not where you're going. You just take it because it's a stepping stone to where you're going to get to. It's less than what you're qualified for, but it's in the data space. So sometimes you might have to take a pay cut. It depends. Everybody's circumstances are different. Some people will decide, I can't take a pay cut. I will take a pay cut. I just need to cross. They might have a good job in a bank or somewhere else, But I really need to get into this data space. I'm going to take a cut of this amount just to get a job. And by taking an intermediate job, because it's lower than, it's lower pay. It's not, I'm not saying minimum pay, but they're able to get in because there's not that much competition. Basically, that it's like if somebody wants to sell a car, basically they have a car and they cut the price because they're desperate to sell it. Of course, it will sell. So somebody might decide, I'll cut my, what I'm worth. I'll cut it in order to get into the space. Once I have a foot in the door, then I know I'm going to grow from there. But it's not for everybody. And please, you do it very cautiously because you don't want to drop too far down. You don't want to drop too far down. You don't want to drop to data entry jobs because it depends on where you're coming from. Okay. Another option that is worth considering is a community of peer analysts. So that's basically us here. So a community of peer analysts will be, all right, we got a number of people that all in the same space looking for jobs. Why don't they come together and then work on tasks together? So somebody will go off and find a data set, maybe bring it to the group, or maybe work on it alone. They might set up a Telegram group, they might set up a WhatsApp group, they might set up any portal. But basically, they're showing their work to say, please give me honest feedback. I say honest feedback because sometimes when people give feedback, it's not honest. It's just, oh, well done, like on LinkedIn, people will post stuff on LinkedIn. Nobody will say, there are very few people that will say, look at this critical and say, look, you shouldn't be using a pie chart there. That's not what a pie chart is used for. Your axes are all over the place. If we don't give honest feedback, then the mistakes that people make here that they should be corrected, they'll go and make it in employment and they could get sacked. So am I making sense here, please?
Yes, you're making sense.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You understand?
Ella, you made a comment. You mentioned that there are some competitions, LinkedIn competitions, where they release messy data.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever come across one.
Maven Analytics. Maven Analytics. I did one. It was Airbnb data. It was about 250,000 records.
Yeah.
There's a lot of complexity there. It's not straightforward. I did another one. It was about restaurants in 10 cities in the world. That's why when people analyze these things, they will all come up with the dashboards will be different because somebody will identify that there's all this missing data and will filter them out. Another person will not. So it's a judgment call. Maven Analytics is fine, is brilliant for that. So, and they do their competitions monthly. I know there are others like Onions and so you'll find them online, and then you might find, you'll definitely. I would say start with Maven, and then from there branch out.
Okay, I'll post the link for Maven Analytics right now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this community of peer analysts, they're helping each other. Iron sharpening iron. They motivate each other. But in all this, it's the responsibility of that aspiring data analyst because people will help you if you take for instance, if you join such a group or if you form such a group, remember everyone is busy, everyone is running their own race. If you fall back, there will be some motivation, but nobody's going to come and beg you and say, look, because the drive has to come from within. So this is another option that I think might help. Now, some of these peer analysts, there are different levels. Some are better than other, and basically they're helping each other, and they're giving advice. Which comes to the question that was asked earlier: what do in such a forum they might say, yeah, somebody might post it, yeah, what do I do next? And I say, well, but based on what the path I've gone through, I will say, Once you've done Excel, the next thing you need to add to it is this. This is what I'm doing. I haven't got there yet, but I found that if you learn Excel and then you follow it with SQL, it's easier than if you follow Excel with Python. You understand? So this is something worth considering. Another thing is mentoring. So same thing. Mentoring is now a bit different. So these are not peers. So the mentor is somebody that has already crossed over. So a mentor basically has to he might have gone the long way, the hard way, but the mentor can now tell you, with the benefit of hindsight, to say you don't have to go this long rugged way I've gone through. I can show you a shortcut from what I've so this is a mentor, somebody that has learned from his own or her own personal experience, and they're passing wisdom on to you, so that you don't have to learn from you don't have to make all the same mistakes that they've made, basically. Mentors are few, because I tell you why, because they're all busy.
Sorry.
So they've all got their jobs. They're all working very hard in employment, and it's hard to find time to mentor. But if you have the right mindset, somebody might still mentor you, because you have to be somebody that is running, and the mentor is just popping in from time to time to, give you guidance. But if you're not the one driving it, the one doing all the visualizations, send it to the mentor. The mentor might not be able to respond immediately, but you have to be the one driving it. So that the mentor is not a nanny, basically. These are busy people already employed, and that's why you have very few people that are mentors out there. There are very few, but there are people that, if you have the right mindset and you make it worth their while. Some of these mentors, they don't need your money. Remember, they're already highly employed. They don't need your money. What they need is progress. They need you to show that it's worth their time. And they're not repeating themselves. If a mentor has to be repeating themselves over and over again, or they have to be the one phoning you up, what are you doing? And you're giving an excuse, I couldn't do anything this month. Next month, I couldn't do anything. The mentor, because there's no contract between you, the mentor will just pull out. But you might be able to get a paid mentor out there, and you might get an unpaid mentor. All right, so we come to the end. I have 2 quotes here, and then we have questions and discussion. This is the 34th president of the United States. He says there's no victories. There are no victories at bargain prices. You have to work hard for it. In crossing this gap, my friends, it's hard work. But it all depends on your drive and motivation. How desperate are you to get to the other side here? Because if you're not, and you see that there's a gap, you're going to do something else. You're going to learn Bitcoin, or you're going to learn something else. The easier ways to make money. Data analytics, it's hard work. But there are no victories at back. But it's those people that have the passion, and those people that are willing to put it in. You can't get it cheap. Everything. I don't want to deceive. You cannot get it cheap. And then this comes from John C. Maxwell. A no-limit person is someone with a positive attitude who is determined to walk to the very edge of his potential before he accepts defeat. They do things that others can't. That person. So, thank you very much. That's me done. I have some time for questions. Michael, how long do I have, please?
Yourself, if you can say 13 minutes. Well, if there are questions.
Good.
Are there any questions? Everybody shy. Things. So, what kind of projects attracts attention for recruiters?
Okay, what type of project is it? Projects.
Data projects. So data analysis projects.
What type of data analysis project? It depends on the recruiter. I would say have a portfolio. So start from somewhere. Don't, because the danger also is to say, oh, I need to have experience in Google Analytics data. I need to have experience in transactional data. I need to have experience in social data. I need to have experience in social Facebook. All those kind of things. But remember, so it's start from somewhere and almost like master it, and then you add on other bits to kind of in a kind of horizontal way. Because at the end of the day, there's a kind of way of the way I look at it. You can look at it this way: that data is data. So, what data one field is, but it's good. It's the business element to the other field that is probably more important. So, at the end of the day, it's just numbers. If you're good with data, well, you're good with data. But it's also good to know, well, there's data that's coming from social media, and it comes in this format. There's data that's coming from Google Analytics, and these are the typical fields. Transactional data. So it's things. So I would say, start from somewhere, delve deep into it, and to be able to get business insights from it and business intelligence. And then whatever your hand finds to do, just do it with all your might. So, yeah.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Dapo? Okay. All right now. So Yemi, thank you for a very, very insightful presentation today.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So about this project, so when they are done with their projects, they should always endeavor to, I guess, post it on their LinkedIn's and or social medias.
Yeah.
Or would a portfolio website be better?
I would say I don't have a portfolio website, but I think what is important is to use LinkedIn for branding. There's LinkedIn branding, so brand yourself on LinkedIn. You want to brand yourself as this, data enthusiast, this person that, is so passionate about data every time they're talking about data. So imagine the way companies post on data. They don't just post everything in 1 week and then they're silent for the next 6 months. They release those blogs every week. So you might not be able to do it every week, but you want to appear alive, because companies will check you out on LinkedIn generally. And you don't want to appear as this person that is a ghost that, just appeared out of nowhere last week and now they suddenly want to become a data person. So start from now. Even if you read an article, reflect on it, put it there. If you do any visualizations, do a screenshot, put it there. You might, if you want to be very organized, have a portfolio website, but nobody is going to know where your portfolio website is if you don't link it to LinkedIn. And you talk about what you've just done and you put the link there and they go and check it. So, yep, LinkedIn definitely. And then, if you have a portfolio website, it's good. But make sure it's your own work. I know there are people that are being kind enough to share portfolio websites and they'll say, well, take it and just put your name on it. But it doesn't, recruiters, they're quite smart because that's what they specialize in. So if they see, you'll be surprised, they might have seen what you're sharing as yours. They might have seen it somewhere else. So whatever it is, even if it is not perfect, because remember, you are just trying to get into the space. So they might not be expecting perfection, but they might be expecting a capacity to grow. So the potential, that's what they want.
Okay, there's one more question. So somebody mentioned that is currently taking the Google Analytics data analysis course. And in the course, they are using platform like Excel, BigQuery, Tableau. So which is the most important? I'll say it's actually level about the tools, though.
Okay, so Excel, BigQuery, Tableau.
Tableau, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know BigQuery. I know some of Tableau before I switched into Power BI. I would say for anyone that is going to be a data analyst, try and make your Excel very solid. And then Tableau and Power BI, to be honest, Tableau and Power BI, they're visualization tools. They're things you can do in Excel, but you can do prettier in Power BI. So the manipulation engine is the same, isn't it? You've got Power Query in Excel, you've got Power Query in Power BI. You even got DAX now in Excel on Power Pivot. So that's the route I kind of took. And it doesn't mean you become an expert in Excel before you begin to learn other things. It just means that you never leave Excel to say, well, I've had enough of Excel now I am Power BI or Tableau. Keep on developing yourself in Excel. And when you see videos of people that demo other things, try and do it yourself. Try and just stop it, get the data, try and do it yourself. Yeah, so definitely Excel, I would say, it's a good starting point. And then you can add on Power BI or Tableau. It depends on the company. Some companies, you adapt to the company. Some companies already have Tableau. Some companies already have Power BI. Some companies will say either. We don't have either of them. We just want you to do your visualizations on your desktop and share it with us.
Okay, so another question. For a beginner in data analytics, what sequence of training would you advise?
The sequence I would advise, I would say start with Excel. Know your Power Query very well. So nowadays, I know that people that advocate for, well, when you start in Excel, don't do all those formulas. Power Query has taken over. But it's a bit like people that learn maths and they start with calculator. We learned the hard way. We started arithmetic. We use four-figure table, all those. And then when we now had the calculator, it's easier. The same way when we're doing drawing. When I was doing drawing at university. And we started with T-square and paper on a board, and then later on in my career came across a CAD using computers. So yeah, I'm kind of old school. I would say, Excel, learn the formulas. Add on Power Query. That will lead you nicely into Power BI and DAX and Tableau. SQL you can do, you can add SQL on. It depends. Some companies have it, some companies don't. But it's nice to know SQL. It's nice to know SQL on the way. And that's it. You have Python, you have R. These are things that you can pull in. The things if you want extra things, you pull in R. I learned R because I needed to do some text mining. So I just learned, and I learned Python as well, but I kind of prefer R to Python. But these are not things I use on a day-to-day basis on my job. So it depends. But develop your depth.
So the last question. So, Saxon, is it true that management science or operations research is very important in business analysis?
Management science.
Yes, or operation research.
Nah, never heard of it. I'm a trained business analyst. I haven't heard of it.
Okay.
So maybe it depends on the industry, depends on the company.
Okay. If there are no other questions, we can go to the rewards.
The rewards. Yeah, okay. Do you want to explain the rewards before I ask the question?
Yes. Okay. So the Power BI learning community is being powered by UrBizEdge and is being sponsored by Enterprise DNA. So at the end of every session, at least almost every session, they give out a free membership where you can get access to other courses, Enterprise DNA courses, and you can learn more about Power BI. So Mr. Yemi is going to ask a question, and is going to drop a thumbs up emoji when on the first person that answers the right question.
Okay. So my question is, what are the two key things that I recommended as essential in your training, and how would you balance the two together? So two key things essential during the training, your training phase, and how will you balance them? Two key things are important, and how will you balance them?
There are already some answers in the chat
Yep,
box.
the two answers. And how would you balance them?
Okay.
And the way you would balance them might be different to the way I would balance them. So, but how would you balance them? Okay, so we have just two answers. Let's take the two. So, yeah, we have three now. Okay, we have three. Okay, any more? Do you want to add to your answer, Chisom and Andrew?
We have four now, I think.
Okay, so all right, so I'm ready to put my. How do you put an emoji here? Okay. All right, I don't know how to put the emoji, but should I just say the winner?
If you tap on the message, you by the edge,
Okay.
the right edge, you see some emojis.
I don't have. I just have copy. When I tap on it, right click.
The right top.
Comments.
Oh, the top. Okay.
The right top of any message.
Right top. It's not working for me. This my team is
Give us the
fantastic.
person's name.
Okay.
There's like any three dots there.
No, they're not three dots. No three dots here.
On my own side, once I put my mouse on the person's comment, I see all these icons come up.
Oh, doesn't come up for me. Oh.
What's the person's name so we can do it from our side?
Okay, I'll tell you the person's name. The winner is Ibrahim Raji.
Awesome. So I've done the top of them. Congratulations, Ibrahim.
Okay. So
if I
the instruction
okay,
so you can send your just send your mail, your name and your email to webinar@UrBizEdge.com.
All right, thank you everyone.
Awesome section. Thanks.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very wonderful week to everyone. Mr. Yemi, it's always a pleasure. And again, today's session has been a very wonderful one.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Bye.
So I'm going to
so next week, same time.
Bye.